A question that we actually get asked quite often is, why does the Infinite Radiance panel change the appearance of my image even though I have done nothing to the particular image? Let me give you an example. Let's say that I add a layer here, which I've done automatically from my Infinite Radiance panel, except from you notice if you look at the cursor itself, no change has actually been done. And however, therefore, you'll still see some changes happening to luminosity. And why does that happen? Well, to answer that question, simply put, is that it's particularly impossible to have nothing at all happen when you have the channel mixer on top of your layer stack. And to quickly show you what I mean by that is, let's change the blend mode of this layer here to normal. I'm going to go back up here and go back to normal. And what you'll notice is that the channel mixer itself, which is the adjustment layer that Infinite Radiance uses, is set to monochrome. And it's quite neutral in the beginning because it's going to be pushing and pulling in all different directions, and then these numbers will push and pull according to the actual circle itself. Now, because it's in normal mode, you'll see that there's a gradient from dark to light, which represents the shadows and highlight information of this particular image. So whenever you naturally turn to luminosity, it's going to kind of like dodge and burn the image if you want to think of it that way. The dark parts of the image will darken a little bit, the brighter parts will brighten, and midtones will, relatively stay the same as much as it can. Let's also take a look at, say, a gradient map. I'm going to turn this off for a second and go to this gradient map that I've added before. And the gradient map itself, I've changed it to luminosity, but if I change it to normal, you can see that the black and white truly represents the gradations of the entire image. However, when I change it to soft light or luminosity, it does the same effect where the blacks will get darker and the whites will get brighter, so it kind of adds this contrast. However, with the channel mixer itself, we set it to luminosity, and there's still going to be some changes, however, not as much as, say, like a gradient map. And what I always tell people is that if you're going to be using the Infinite Radiance panel, you're going to be using it to actually modify the luminosity values of the image. So if you're actually going to keep the layer itself on top without making any adjustments, I would recommend just deleting it and only using it if you're going to be modifying the luminosity values of the image. Therefore, the shift that happens at the beginning without you actually changing anything will be almost irrelevant. And that's pretty much the best workaround I have for this. And I hope this answered your question as to why it does happen off the bat. We obviously try to not make it happen, but based on the technicalities of Photoshop and how the channel mixer works on the monochrome adjustment setting, it's almost impossible. But again, you don't have to worry about it if you're going to be modifying the luminosity values of the image anyway.